Welcome to the Quintessential Podcast, and thanks to our new title sponsor, Spire Academy Lacrosse. Spire is an international high school and post-grad sports performance training and education boarding school located within a world-class event and wellness complex. Well, this will be a special podcast today. Quint Kessenich here. We're joined by Brendan Staub, defender, Cornell, Big Red, as they take home the title on Memorial Day in what was it was a pretty good game, I tell you. They pulled away late for the win over Maryland. Cornell completing an 18-1 season, first national championship since 1977 after being in the finals, about 5 times. We welcome in Brendan Staub right now, junior defender from Garden City. Are you on the island or are you still up in Ithaca?
Still up in Ithaca, heading out shortly.
Take me to the immediacy. Like, what was it like when the clock hit zeros? What's it been like since then?
Insane. Very, very surreal. When it ended, we were so dialed in the last couple minutes, and worried about finishing the game. That's been such a point of emphasis all year, since the first Penn State game. So I didn't really let myself, get past that at all. And so when it actually ended and it sounded, just such a awesome, joy and so much emotion there, and just being on the field with the guys has, been an awesome 48 hours.
Who in your family, who in your life were you most eager to celebrate with?
It's a good question. I was so lucky to have so many people there. My 2 sisters, my mom, my dad, cousins, my aunts, uncles, just so many, I had 15 buddies from home there, so many people just there to support me. And, throughout this playoff run, just been blown away by how lucky I am to have so many awesome people in my life.
We talked about Cornell's culture. Mike French was staying in our hotel. I was interacting with him all weekend. John Gordon and I are friendly, and so we're exchanging texts. For you, when you went to the tailgate, was there anything that jumps out in terms of Cornell culture, the different decades coming together, the different players from the different eras? Like, what stood out?
Yeah, I think that you just said it. The different generations of people, all being together and loving one another, and I do truly think it's the tightest knit family in lacrosse. And that is something that we definitely pride ourselves on, and the relationships that the alumni have formed with us are really special, and they really connect us to the history of the place, and Richie and Eamon and George, and all those people live on through everyone in their classes who talks to us and tells us about them. So it's a really, really special thing, and celebrating with all of them after getting it done was incredible.
There's a power in that. There's a power in when you're shaking hands, as you did on Monday. Like, you look to your left. Again, there's moments of doubt as an athlete. I think when you're in that arena and you're like, wow, I'm playing for a national championship. Yeah. And I remember looking to my right and my left, and I was like, that guy's got my back. That guy's got my back. We can do this. Yep. But for you guys, it's even deeper than that. It's you look to Matt Dooley on your right, you look to Jason Singer on your left, but you also know that there's guys from the 70s, 80s, 90s, the Rob Pennells of the world, the Steve Mocks of the world, the Chase Irelands of the world. Like, how do you describe that?
Yeah, I think you just put it incredibly well. Like, the touch points we have to those guys, the support they show, how bought in they are, it makes what we do so much easier. Just knowing that we have all that support behind us, you derive so much confidence from it. And, I think it's, the biggest reason why we got it done.
You had a monster tournament. You scored a bunch of goals in the quarters and then the semis. On Monday, you were all over the field, especially late in that game with ground balls. How did your legs feel? How did you feel? Like, what were you dealing with internally?
Yeah, definitely the hardest I think I've ever pushed my body. Monday, 75 degrees, 2 games, 3 days, on the biggest stage. It took a lot of digging from all of us. And I think that's the nature of it, right? If you want to win, you got to be able to go to that place and get it done. And I think, just so much of that credit goes to the way we practice, strength coach Howley, the way we're conditioned. I really do think, like, our second halves this year and on quick turnarounds, like, that's where we really excelled. And I think it's a result of the way we train, the way we condition, the way we practice and beat up on each other. I think we just generally usually had more in the tank than who we were lined up against.
The numbers definitely confirm that, especially in the NCAA tournament. You guys weren't exactly getting off to great starts.
Mhm.
How did, and you found a good start against Maryland. I thought Wyatt was spectacular in that first quarter when he had to be, because things could have gone maybe a little sideways early. Felt like Maryland put some pressure on you. What
Mhm.
what was your reaction? What was the talk amongst the defense early in the championship?
Yeah, I think the pregame, all the emotion, 32,000 people, like it takes a little bit to settle into that game. And one thing I've always noticed, and we always talk about, is just making one play to settle yourself into the game, getting one ground ball, putting your hands on somebody, just doing something to make you settle down. And that's why Wyatt, being where he was in the Penn State game and the Maryland game, I think he set the tone for us on defense by making some huge stops in the first quarters of those games. Really gave us the confidence that he was on behind us, and it really settled us in. So Wyatt, Penn State, and Maryland, phenomenal games, and he's awesome. It's fantastic.
You're up 6-5 at half. CJ then goes off. He scored basically four straight goals, 6, 7, 8, and 9, playing with a broken hand, apparently. Uh, I thought he really picked his spots well in his matchup. He wasn't forcing it. He was aggressive. He took high percentage plays, and he kept it pretty simple at the end of the day. Like those weren't crazy dodges or anything, but he's just so tough to cover. What's it like being his teammate and seeing him do that at that very important moment?
He is Cornell Lacrosse. He is our leader. He's everything that you could want out of the best player on your team, the best player in the country. Because he's not just the best; he's also the hardest worker. I don't think I've ever met someone who works harder than him and loves the game as much as him. Everything you hear about him is true. He's genuinely one of the best dudes I've ever met. And so when he gets going in a game like that, it just gives us confidence to know like we're okay. He's given us 60 minutes of everything he's got. And let's just get in line and follow him.
I've known him since he was a freshman. You were a senior at Garden City during that 2022 championship game, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But to when I meet him, he seems to keep getting bigger every time I see him. He's a big dude. Like he's got a big, heavy frame. What's it like to try to cover him when you're matched up with him in practice? Like if he leans into you, that's not going to be good. Uh, you got to like kind of direct him to where you want him to go. And that seems like a tough assignment.
Yeah, he's definitely very hard to cover. Having him as a cover in practice for 3 years definitely made me and Jay and Dooley and all the guys so much better going against him. And like you said, his game, the best part about him, I think, his game is he's just so versatile. Like if he wants to run by you, he could. If he wants to play in a post up, he could. He's just got so many different ways to beat you. And he's definitely the hardest guy I've ever had to cover. So thankfully it was just in practice and I don't have to play against him.
His best skill for me is his left-handed cutting ability. Whether he's kind of rolling into it, the way he times it, the way he gets leverage on that defender and just cuts down that seam is you plug in the tape and you've seen it. Like he must have 20 goals on that same move this
Yeah.
year. I want to talk about your game because you played LSM initially at Cornell and watching the championship game, I felt that was really beneficial for you because you were able to showcase those skills in a close defender's role. How would you like? And I was thinking about it, like maybe freshmen should come in and almost cross train that first year. If you're Paul, play close. If you're not in
Yeah.
the immediate too deep, but you got a lot of run, obviously. But I see those skills now crossing over at close, and that to me is like a separator for you compared to other defenders. You can handle the ball. You're awesome off the ground, and you look to get upfield. Like, how would you describe those skill sets and your game?
Yeah. I think you hit it on the head. I think the benefit of doing that for 2 years is maybe so much better. I think it was the best thing for my game. It's definitely it was an adjustment this year to get back to close, but I played it my whole life. So that came a little more instinctively. And, the LSM position taught me so much about how to, win ground balls, like you said, get up the field, be willing to push it in transition. And just, it made me a better athlete as well. Running like that, it definitely put me in much better shape, made me a lot faster. And I agree. Like, I think that point about freshmen coming in, and, I think the way the game is now, pull and close, like, if you're good, you should be able to play both. Like, I think the era of, like, you're just one or the other. I feel like there's a lot more guys that are versatile and could do both now, and we have a bunch of guys like that in our team.
Yeah, if offenses are going to call themselves positionless, then
Exactly. Yeah.
defenses got to call themselves positionless because
Exactly.
it's not like we got a low right D, a low left D, and a crease guy anymore. Like, you're everywhere. You got to play picks up top. You got to play picks at X. You got to play wing picks. You're going to get dragged. These formations change. So I do think there's a lot of strength in that. I want to talk to you about your defense. Early in the season, I was critical. Uh, the way you guys developed after the Ivy League tournament was, to me, just like, wow, because it didn't look good against Yale in the semis. And in the
Yeah.
finals, you gave a 15 to Princeton. And I always knew, I was like, man, if Cornell's defense could hold the opponent to 12 or less, this offense is going to win.
Yeah.
But what you guys did in those last games after the Ivy League tournament was just a dramatic improvement. And you played great again against Maryland. Maybe the best team defense I've seen from you guys all season. What changed after the Ivies?
Yeah. It's a good point. I was actually, we were thinking and talking about that yesterday. First of all, I think as a team, something we pride ourselves on this year was playing complementary lacrosse. So, like, a lot of times that was earlier in the year, and like you said in the Ivy League tournament, that was the offense picking up the slack for us. And we knew that at some point for us to win, we would have to eventually be stronger. And we knew that, like you said, the success would hinge on how well we did as a unit. So I'm really proud and happy that we were able to pull our weight and get it done. Because the offense's ability was never, all the question marks were on our end. And I'm really happy that we answered them. And I think the incremental progress from the Ivy League tournament was really just doubling down on what we have tried to do all year. Coach Stevens talked about it all the time. He said when we got to the playoffs, like, this time of year is about looking your flaws in the face and getting better. And it's easy to stop getting better later in the season. And so I think we just showed up to practice, attacked it like the same way we always did, and I just think working hard at practice later in the season really put us in a good spot.
I thought you got really good depth of production at the LSM position. Walker Wallace, Walker Schwartz. We saw some Eddie Rahill. We even saw some Duke Reeder, I think, in the Ivy Leagues.
Yeah.
And then up to six shorties, probably more like 4 or 5 with TJ Lamb, Chris Davis, Luke Gilmartin, a little Kyle Smith, a little Michael Bazzi, and even Charlie Box. Like that the power in numbers.
Yep.
Uh,
100%.
how much zone were you ready to play if you needed it in this tournament? Because we saw it a lot in the Ivies, and then we saw it once against Richmond late. We saw it maybe once in the championship game, but not that much. You think Coach Stevens was ready to go zone if things ever went sideways?
Yeah, I think we definitely had it in our back pocket, and we were working on it week to week. But I think it was an adjustment that, like you said, I just don't think we needed it that much. We like playing man. That's what we want to do. And because we played a good 4 games in the tournament, we just didn't really have to go to it. The only time we really did in the tournament was the last possession of the Richmond game. But I think that was pretty much the only time we went into it.
Early on in the Maryland game, it looked like your splits were really condensed. Like, you guys were not out there chasing them. Was that a point of note, or did that just organically happen?
Yeah, I think it was, just scouting them. They are a great system and offense, and they're methodical and they're disciplined and they do all those things well. And the way Coach Stevens said it to us was, they're looking to make you make 10 to 12 mistakes a game and score on it. So we went in thinking, we have to do a good job of playing fundamental, consistent, all those things that I just said that they do well. And because they're going to try to expose and exploit if you're undisciplined, unfocused, have lapses. So I think it definitely was a point of focus to be disciplined and not necessarily pack it in or anything, but just not give them anything easy by being over aggressive.
Okay, so don't get overextended. Keep it tight. If in doubt, pack it in. Give them looks from the outside. I
especially
get
with
us.
Wyatt saving the ball as well as he was.
Right.
We were comfortable with giving him 14-yard shots.
Yeah. Last thing in that regard, like slide decisions. Again,
Mm-hmm.
in the Ivy League tournament, especially against Yale, it looked like there was some miscommunication. I guess it was miscommunication. Was it just is this as simple as making good decisions, but communicating through those decisions better?
Yeah, I think that's a huge piece of it. We really got much better um, deciding when to slide. That was probably the biggest thing, is knowing when to go and when to not go. And I think that was a point of focus for us all year. And I think it's what really, you asked what improved in the tournament. I think that's probably the number one thing I would list of what we got better at on both sides of the coin, like going when we needed to go and not going when we didn't. This, and then talking through that recovery, I think, we got a lot better at throughout the 4 games.
I met your coach Connor Busick when he was a high school football player at St. X. We were out there in late August. It was hot. I mean, it was one of the hotter games I've ever done. And he was this killer linebacker, number 33. He had blood all over his elbows, and he was destroying people. I'm like, this guy's a midfielder, an attackman. Uh, Take me through like the season with Coach Busick and the waves. Like, what do you think? What do you think he did really well this year?
I think he's best coach in the country, no doubt about it. He is one of the best leaders I've ever been around. Um, so just he gives so much. He really works so hard, and he cares about every dude on the team. I think throughout the ups and downs, the adversity of this year, dealing with everything that we did and he did, and I just think he does such a good job of navigating us through uncertainty and adversity while still being incredibly positive and enthusiastic, and just there's nobody else in the country I'd rather play for.
I agree with you. He walked in your shoes. How did he played at Cornell recently? It's not like it was this too long ago. How does that show up?
Yeah, I mean, him and Coach Stevens, having coaches that played here a decade ago, it's such an advantage. He knows what and they both know what we are going through on a day-to-day basis. They were in lifts with Coach Howley. They did these practices. All of the things that we go through, they did, and they did recently. So I think it just gives them such an ability to connect with us. And then also just, I think they do a very good job of planning practices and coaching us like tactically and strategically, because they were here, and they really understand the place in and out. And then on the culture piece, like they were here and they experienced the culture as players as well, and they do such a good job of like enthusiastically and fanatically upholding that culture.
When you talk about relationships, how do those two coaches, Connor and Jordan, as young head coaches, how do they establish or build personal relationships with you?
Yeah. I think, like I said, the effort. They are always the whole staff is always looking to talk to us, hear our perspectives. Like Coach Stevens does such a good job on the defensive end of, we go into a film session and he's asking us questions, and, it's very back and forth. There's very much a dialogue. It's not them dictating to us. And they really do a good job of giving us ownership of this thing. And especially the seniors, this year, they gave them the keys, and really let them run it. And I think that trust that they put in us is so huge for us, for our success.
Senior classes are often underrated in terms of like long-term success. Like you follow the teams with the really good senior classes, and usually they're going to advance deep into the tournament. Ryan Goldstein, I had him on earlier on in the season. Love him. But he talked about your weightlifting sessions where players or seniors can kick teammates out of the sessions for not competing, not trying, not working up to the standard. Is that accurate? And does that happen?
Oh yeah, practice, lift, could be anything.
Practice, even practice.
Oh yeah, and the coaches, it's never the coaches, it's other guys. And it's never if somebody's not playing well or something like that. It's if you're not upholding the standard, meaning you're not working hard enough, you're not giving everything you got. And if someone sees it, you just get kicked out. And it's a hard, coming in it's a hard thing as a freshman to be like, oh my God, you get kicked out of practice, get kicked out of lift. Like, this is crazy. But it's the way that we can uphold that standard that I talked about. If if you're not, we always talk about this, like if you're not where you need to be, you're going to be bringing everyone down with you. And so, the commitment to upholding that standard every day, that's just one way it manifests. But yeah, it's definitely true.
That's the culture at work. I read Hard Hat 21 over the weekend. John Gordon was kind enough to FedEx me a copy of that, and then this other book he's got, The Seven Commitments of a Great Team. But I finished Hard Hat 21. I gave it to my daughter when I got home on Monday night. She's a high school sophomore getting ready for finals. So she's like, "Daddy, I can't read this until finals are over." I'm like, it'll take a couple hours. But in that book, it's really, I mean, I'm shocked that all teams don't read it, because it's a really functional
Mm-hmm.
guide on how you can be a great teammate. And,
Mm-hmm.
and those are fundamentals of your program from George Boyardi 21 years ago. Like, the two or three that jump out to you in terms of Cornell culture and that thought of being a great teammate.
Yep.
But what resonates strongest to you there?
Yeah. I think the number one thing is just loving each other. I've never been around a group of guys that genuinely loves each other as much as we do. And telling each other that we love each other and telling each other that we love this place and we're committed to it. Um, I don't think I've seen a group of guys show up with, so much care for each other and care for the program. I would say that would be one. And then I think the other one, and, this is George and what we live on, is just like the selflessness of being a good teammate. I've never seen a group of guys as bought in to the cause. And I don't think there's any selfishness at all on the team. And, I think everyone is for the collective success. And it's not about anything for yourself. So I think the loving and the selflessness are probably the biggest two for me.
You guys celebrate on the field, you go in the locker room. The reality is that, like, the 60 people that comprise your program, that's probably the last time that they'll be together as a whole. Now, when you win a title, there's a good chance that you can get all the players together 5, 10, 25 years from now. But
Mm-hmm.
everybody, support staff, like everybody, it's probably not going to happen. And there's a sorrow, there's a sadness in
Mm-hmm.
that. Like, that's so. What's it like to say, for you, you're coming back to school next year, but to potentially say goodbye to some of these people? Uh, it's like the greatest way you can say goodbye, but the
Yeah.
reality is it may be goodbye.
Yeah. No, totally. I was thinking about that. That hit me a little bit yesterday. We did a graduation ceremony for the seniors, and obviously I've been so happy since we won, but that was a little sad. Yeah, I mean, those guys have meant so much to us, me, this place, this program. They've given us so much, and it's that senior class is a special one. I think Coach Halley said it around the middle of the year. It's like, look to these guys as the best lesson in leadership you're ever going to get, is just watching how these guys operate, and they were a special group. And we got the best staff, training staff, equipment staff, like all the support people, so bought in, so caring, and it was so awesome to have them all a part of this, and so crucial to the success.
I wrote an article, 21 Reasons Why Cornell Won the Championship, and one of them is the fact that every single starter started every game. You didn't lose a single start this year.
Wow.
For your starters. I know there were some injuries in the shorties. Your polls availability wasn't always there. But according to Jeremy, your SID, who I should thank for setting this up, like, you
Yeah.
don't miss it. And that says something about Coach Halley. That says a lot about your training staff. It's both. Your strength and conditioning is like the proactive arm. Like, if you're big, strong, fast, you're going to win confrontations. You're not going to get hurt. But when you
Yep.
do get hurt, that's when you turn to the athletic trainers. Like, so it's a team effort there. But I thought that was amazing that you guys were able to stay that healthy.
Agreed. And, in past years, especially last year, we had a couple of tough injuries. And so we knew what we had in that locker room this year. I mean, so much talent, and everyone was so bought in. And I was just praying that everyone would stay healthy. And, to hear that stat, that is awesome. And again, like you said, it's all the credit in the world to Coach Halley, trainers, Ed, Danielle. It doesn't happen without them. They did such a good job managing everything and working tirelessly to keep everyone on the field.
Yeah, Jack Cascadden's injury in 2024 was really detrimental in that you couldn't feed this really good offense last year. Even couldn't feed them enough. What's next for you, Brendan? You going back to the island? You staying up in New York? You going to do some traveling? You got a job?
Yeah, going home in about an hour, and then I actually move into the city on Sunday and start work Monday. So quick turnaround. Don't get to chill out for too long, but it'll be a fun summer.
You're living with a bunch of guys, high school friends, college friends?
Yeah, there's a couple guys from home who also are doing stuff in the city, and then the nice part is a lot of the seniors are moving there to live. I'll only be there for the summer, but it'll be a good group, and hopefully a lot of fun.
So you're in Manhattan, working a 9 to 5 or a 7 to 10 p.m. depending.
Yeah,
What industry?
I'm doing investment banking.
Nice. So you're living with like 10 guys in a single bedroom type place, or do you have a
Yeah,
decent setup, or are you going to commute from Garden City and take the train?
so yeah, I'm not going to commute. Just I thought with the hours it would be better to just get a place in the city, and I'm staying at like basically a dorm. So going back to like a freshman year dorm basically. So it'll be it'll be fun.
Continue to train as much as you can during the summer.
Exactly. Yeah, I think you know during the week a lot of running, lifting, stuff like that, and then at home go back to Garden City most weekends and get out in the field. And one of the nice parts about being from Garden City is there's a bunch of great guys from high school who are all playing high level. So no shortage of guys to get dodged on by.
So you come back next year as a senior, PLL down the road. I'm guessing you would like to continue playing lacrosse for as long as you could.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now there's a bunch of guys from Cornell in the league. We were talking about it yesterday. And I recommend, continue to play as long as you can. As long as your body holds up, as long as you're having fun and you feel eager to train, that's why not?
100%.
Well, for a Garden City guy, man, you're not so bad.
Thank you. I'll take that.
I got to explain to our fans. I'm a Limerick guy. So at Limerick Garden City back in the day used to be it was a good game that Garden City usually won. We lost my senior year 6-5. I nearly scored against their 10-man, bounced the ball over the net. But Andy Krause was a great player from Garden City in my class. We became good friends. He played at Virginia, but I've got a lot of respect for the Garden City program forever. And it all starts with that youth, with the youth program there. It's amazing. Were you a product of that?
Yeah, I played just for Garden City. Like, we have a great summer program. Coach Fennell does such a fantastic job, and all the so much buy-in from the parents and the youth coaches, and it's awesome. But yeah, so I played for the Garden City summer team, and I actually played for they don't have a boys program anymore, but I played for FLG as well for club.
Well, I got a kick. Last thing I got a kick out of, you got 9 Long Island guys on your roster. Like, public school lacrosse is I don't want to say the word dying, but it's not as strong as it used to be. So for me to see Hugh Kelleher from MacArthur, Cascadin and yourself from Garden City, singers from Syosset, like Cadigans from Smithtown, like that hits. Like, I think of all the teams, like your locker room would probably be the place that I'd be most comfortable as a South Shore Nassau County guy.
Yeah, we love that, that vibe, that grit. I would agree with that. There's no better locker room, no better Long Island guys than the ones we got.
Well, Brendan, no more parties on campus, huh? You guys have called it quits after a solid 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, the bummer is everyone graduated over the weekend, so not really many people here left. But we had a good time celebrating. Everyone's got to move on for the summer.
Is there a formal team party scheduled for later this summer or in the fall?
Not that I know of, but I'm sure we'll get something going. Guys are, generally all from pretty close to each other. Maybe get something together for sure.
Well, good. Well, travel safe. Enjoy your summer. Enjoy Manhattan. We'll see you next year, and then down the road. Really appreciate your time, Brendan. I know you're
awesome.
super busy, and great to see you. You're actually sober and alive and awake.
Exactly. So thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you for tuning into today's show. You can contact me at quint.kessenich@espn.com with any feedback or guest ideas. And a special thank you to all our sponsors, including today's presenting sponsor, Spire Lacrosse.